Back to Redefine Parenting with your host, 𝗖𝘂𝗹𝘁𝗶𝘃𝗁. We want to welcome you to Spanglish World Network and her network on Zingo TV, channels 250 and 251. Zingo TV is a free app that can be downloaded on iOS and Android devices. While you download, make sure to rate and leave a comment. Zingo TV is also available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire and Fire Sticks, Roku and Roku Sticks, and all smart TVs 2016 and forward. Redefine Parenting is a revolutionary approach to nurturing our children. 𝗖𝘂𝗹𝘁𝗶𝘃 will bring you live experts, transformative insights, and a fresh perspective, all aimed at helping families worldwide truly understand their children. Together, let's give them a childhood they won't have to heal from. Hello, I am so excited for my guest tonight because I've had Jacinda on my show a couple of times and we always have this great conversation. But what makes tonight even more special is that we have her amazing daughter, Sedona, joining us. So I just want to welcome both of you to our show, Redefine Parenting. Thank you both for being here this evening with us.
Yeah, we're excited. It's going to be fun.
Yay. So, for my listeners, one of the things that Jacinda and I had the honor of being at her house a couple of times and sitting down with her family. As a matter of fact, her family really helped me understand what it is that families thrive for. And it's that bonding, that time with family where everyone's working together, and it's what peace really, really looks like in a home. And it was so beautiful to actually experience that in their home. And the Thriving Together event that me and her, I guess she's your aunt, right? Tammy's your aunt?
Yeah, she is.
Yeah, your aunt. Her and I did together the theme was really based off of being at their home. And so I wanted Jacinda to come on and her amazing daughter because it's going to come to a viewpoint of when we think of family culture. Now, for me, when I was growing up, to me, family culture was, well, I'm Indian and I lived in a very cultured Indian home in America. And there was different rules and understandings, but it was very cultured to, where my family comes from. And Jacinda, when you and I were talking, you really brought up some great points about family culture and the way you guys see it. So I just want to, hand it over to you and see how you view family culture and how you have been promoting this in your home.
Well, it's just a couple of years ago, I had an opportunity to start a company. And when you start a company, one of the things you start thinking about is the culture of the company. Yeah. What are your values? What is your mission statement? What are your pillars? What is it that you're offering? And it's very deliberate and it's very active. And then it's like, okay, I'm only allowing people to come onto my company that exhibit these values, right? And make it so that we are helping each other. And it's a culture of not we're each other's competition, but we're there to help raise all of us up, right?
Nice.
So I was just kind of thinking about, how often do we look at our families? Like our most important relationship, our most important business, our most important job is being a mom and a parent. And this is our environment. And are we being really deliberate on how we are creating, like what we're creating here? Does everyone know what our values are, right? And you always know your values by watching and seeing what people are doing, and you have to live those values in order for it to actually be a culture. So I just thought it'd be fun to kind of talk about what family culture can look like, or some ideas that might be something like, yes, I want my family to have that be part of our culture or part of our tradition or part of our day, to bring more peace and more happiness and more time together and just truly enjoy the family environment. Because I'm so grateful. Like, this is my oldest daughter. She just turned 18 last week. And so it's my first time having an official adult as a child. She graduates this coming May. So I'm so going to miss having her gone to college. Like, I'm really not looking forward to it, because even if she's gone for even just one night, it feels like such a hole in our family. So I'm just enjoying every single minute that we have. But I actually asked her the other night, I said, hey, Sedona, what are some of the things that we value as a family? Like, what do you think makes our family different than what you see other, around? And she literally gave me 2 pages of notes. So I'm like, you know what, this would be better if you come on here and talk about it, because man, you were full of good ideas. But yeah, I think I think the first thing that came out of Sedona's mouth is the quality of time.
Wow.
So she's like, I think the amount of quality time we spend together makes the biggest difference. She started off by like, hey, the fact that we all pile in a trailer several times a year and just spend a week together, and not just our little family unit, but I grew up with a very close family as well. And I'm super close to my siblings, and we still love to travel together and be together. We still get together several times a month. We get together once a month and have family home evening where we just all get together and have kind of a lesson and just, it's just awesome. So we travel together, and they also have these built-in friends and cousins that they get to also have these special ties with. And just being in close quarters away from your normal environment gives a lot of opportunity for this quality time and build those relationships.
So Donna, I'm curious because, you being 18 and you've gone through the teenage years, the younger teenage years where everyone thinks their friends are most important. Did you ever go through that, or was there still this pull that, hey, I need to be with my family still?
I think for me, I didn't really go through that phase, but like I was telling my mom, I think it really has to do with the quality time we spent together. Because like the longer and like more time you spend with one person, like the closer and like deeper that relationship is. And so just like from my experience, like us going camping all the time and us like spending hours of our day with each other, like you just become like so attached to like my siblings and my parents to like the point where I have like deeper relationships with them than I do my friends. And so I love my friends and I do spend a lot of time with them, but I do still really enjoy spending a lot of time with my family as well.
Nice. One of the things that you brought up, Jacinda, when you talked about creating a culture when you started your business is, like, what's the mission? What's the theme? And, for our home, we do have a theme, and it's love and kindness. And that means that that's the umbrella of when we speak, when we do. Ideally, we would be under the umbrella of love and kindness. And what's great about in my home is that when the twins are not getting along, they're not staying on their page, because I got that from you, by the way. Stay on your page. It's, are you saying that through love and kindness? And if they're like, no, and I'm like, okay, well, I need you to take a breath, and I need you to say it as if it was through love and kindness, bringing them back to that theme. And I feel like that also has started a culture in our life, just having that theme to fall back on. I think your theme in your home is very godly. Like I feel God's presence when I walk into your home. I know that you guys practice that, right? You practice, God's word every day. You guys start off with devotion and stuff. And that's definitely felt in your home. Would you say, what else is your theme in your home?
Well, you definitely hit it on the head that I think everything that we're going to talk about in this conversation all leads back to God. I mean, it's all with the whole purpose of becoming more Christ-like, of becoming more like him, and treating each other the way that Christ would want to have us taught. And, one thing that my Aunt Tammy was talking about was, she's like, you guys focus on not having contention in your home. And I know it's not always good to have a negative to focus on, but we recognize it when we see it. And that's part of recognizing, like, hey, this isn't what we're about, right? We're not going to have contention in our home. And we pray to keep the peace in our home, right? And what's great about that is because we're all committed to that. So even when you're having an argument, it allows you to just stop, like it breaks your state, and be like, yeah, let's approach this differently, where we're not bringing that contention in our home. Because that's a big value for me, is having peace. Like peace is what I definitely value in my home. And because I feel like when you don't have peace, it's bringing a different spirit in my home that I'm just not okay with. But yeah, I think there's a lot of things like we specifically do. I mean, Sedona was even bringing up like language. You want to talk about language?
Yeah, in our house, growing up, we weren't allowed to say like any negative language. So like every time we would say the words like shut up or like just any like bad connotation like that, like our parents would like say like, no, we don't use that language. And it definitely like helps, because like even to this day, like I'll accidentally tell someone to shut up, and it just makes me feel like so horrible. Like I'll tell my brother, Xander, shut up, don't. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Because like just the way we like talk to each other, like instead of saying like shut up, you can say like, can you please quiet down? And just like that brings like a whole other level of like feeling behind it. So
well, what's funny is that when she was little, like my kids really thought shut up was a swear word. And so they would come in and say, Mom, so like they'll tattle on their friends that their friends said the S word. And I'm like,
shut up.
Let's clarify what that S word was. Like, what did they say? Because most of the time it was shut up. Like, oh my gosh, that's not something you say. But it's very much like one thing I'm really happy is leading by example. So it's really helped me that Sedona is who she is. So I don't know how much it's really hard to differentiate all the different pieces, but having an older child that is really responsible and accountable to her actions, and it's just how we've always dealt with her and also the kids going down. But her being that way, the kids look at that as that's how I'm supposed to be, right? So the older kids play a huge role in how those younger kids turn out. What you're allowing with your older kids actually affects what you're going to be dealing with all the way down, right? And they see her and the example she leads. And what the best thing I ever did was when Sedona was little and she like, I love you, Mom. And I'm like, oh, I'm just going to soak this in because one day you'll just scream at me as a teenager saying, I hate you, Mom, kind of just as a joking around. And she vowed at that moment that she would never say that to me. She would never say that to me. And she kept that promise. And
wow.
Even if she ever felt that way, she's like, I'm not going to give her that satisfaction.
There's been some close calls.
Well, I think that all of us, like when we grow up, we go through these patterns where we think we know more than our parents do in that moment until we realize and we grow up out of that and we're like, oh, maybe we didn't know as much as our parents did, but it still didn't feel good for our parents to tell us, no, you couldn't do it.
Well, just on quality time though, there's a few things that just some suggestions I'm going to throw out there of things that we do
please.
that you might think, I think we could, that might be something I want to put into my family, which you mentioned, we start each morning off together as a family. And so the way our mornings look, I'm so much a parent that believes in self-reliance and having them do things for themselves. Like that's just how I've always operated. And when we wanted to start doing these morning, you call them a devotional, to incentivize my kids, because they always had to get up and make breakfast, and we don't do cereal in our house. They had to make it themselves a hot breakfast. So I told them, I said, hey, you guys will get up at 6:20, like 6:20 in the morning. I'll have a hot breakfast ready for you. So that was a huge thing for them, kind of incentivize them. But we all get up and we would have read, a chapter in the scriptures the night before on our own. So they all read it on their own. And then we come to the table and we just discuss the values or the lessons that we got out of there or how we can apply it to our lives. And we just have like a 20-minute conversation that feeds our spirit. I think it's so important to feed your spirit first thing before you start your day. I think our spirit is under attack all day long. I think we get all kinds of opportunities to exercise our social skills and exercise our brain. Hopefully we're exercising our body, but I think sometimes our spirit really gets atrophied or get fed stuff that isn't healthy for it. And so starting off with a strength there is a big deal for us. I think that's really changed. It sets the tone for the day. It's probably one of my favorite things that we do, actually. I really look forward to that time in the morning with my kids and also just getting that family time before we all go our separate ways.
Can I say something real fast?
Yeah.
I also really enjoy like devotion or like scripture study in the morning, because like when you're with your family and like you're discussing these topics like that, it creates like a spirit and like it helps bond you as well, like because you're developing and like learning with these people and you're getting to know their thoughts on it. And so starting your day out that way, I feel like really like fun, like does a connection with us.
Do you feel like it helps you like going to school or like kind of handling the stresses that you have throughout the day to be able to have,
sure.
A higher power that you kind of hook into to start your day off with. We also do a family pasta night, which was one of our favorite things. Alex and I came back from Italy, and when my husband and I were over there, we took a a pasta making cooking class. And so we came back and taught our kids, and we all get our little hat and aprons on, and we all make our own little pasta. And it's just fun to like, that's usually something we do on Sundays, because Sundays we don't allow electronics on Sundays at all. That's just a full on family day. It's no friends, no electronics. It's all about family that day. And so we go to church, but we spend time, again, talking, doing our devotional that day as well. But it's, all games and family games, or playing outside, or, obviously we eat together, dinner together every night. Like we always do a home cooked meal and eat together as a family. We clean together as a family. As soon as we're done, we all do our chores. So it's not just, laden on one person. We also have a fun little game. Do you want to talk about Love You the Most? Yeah, she started this one. It was kind of fun. But
is it spoons? Because I love spoons, Sedona.
That was a fun game, wasn't it?
That was a fun game. In my family, we have this game between like me, my siblings, my parents, but it's just like whenever we see each other, or just like if I leave the room and come back, I'll like, you immediately try to tell the other person that you love them first. So we call it like a love you the most. And like whenever you leave the room, or like if I call someone, like the first thing out of my mouth is like, hey, I love you the most. And then I tell them what I need. But it's just like a fun game that me and my siblings have, and we get really competitive about it. But it's just nice because like we always start and end our conversations on that note that like we love each other, and just starting out kind of on that base of where the conversation is going to go from.
They've also kind of made a secret code, is 3 squeezes on the hand means I love you, and 5 means I love you the most. So if they're in church, or even like they're at dinner, they'll take their hand and squeeze them 3 times, just to kind of get another one in. It's kind of fun too. But,
that's the other thing that I do feel when I'm at your house is the love, and like how welcoming it is. And I think that love welcomes all. Love doesn't discriminate. Love is not good or bad. It doesn't see good or bad. It just loves. And even when we want to bring peace into the home, I think a foundation is that love, and definitely being in your home. I definitely, as a visitor, have always walked in, felt so welcomed and so loved. Like it's literally walking into a home of love. And so what I want my listeners to know is that why I wanted to bring you guys on is because not just so you can tell people this, I've experienced it. So it works. It works when you raise your children this way. It works when I remember I had you on my show before, Jacinda, and we talked about how you don't pay your kids to do chores in the house.
No, I strongly believe that you need to teach your kids that, one, we are members of a society and we give back. You don't get paid for everything you do. And especially like when you become a parent, no one's going to pay you to clean your own house. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like there's things about being part of the family that there are privileges, right? We all you get this home, you get shelter and food, and we all have to work together. And you got to teach your kids work ethic. You don't get paid in monetary, reward for every little thing they do. They know that there is chores and jobs that we all have to do, and we all lift this burden together. And when we all lift it together, it makes it easy.
So if you had a child that said, well, why does it matter if my room's dirty? It's my room. If I want to keep it this way, why does that matter? How would you respond to that? Because I think that's where a lot of parents get that pushback. It's like, well, it's mine. I don't understand. Like, if I want it this way, it's not hurting anything. Why do I need it? Why do I need to do it your way?
Well, I guess it just depends on your own rules. Like if your rule for the house is that the room is clean, then it's not their room. It's their space that they're getting from you. And there's a privilege of having that space. And if your rule that's important to you is that the house is clean, which I do think cleanliness brings an element of peace.
Yes.
But so it's just like, there's an element of the status of the stuff around you changes and affects your behavior and how you look at things and how you treat your stuff, how you treat your belongings. All of that's reflected. And so it matters in the person that you are. It's about who you are going to show up to be. And second, this is space that they're renting, not renting, but really renting from you as a family. And like, if that's what's important to you and that's what's you're trying to create and instill habits. It's not about just their room. And it's like, I think it's still kind of poisonous sometimes, this idea of like the other people's actions don't affect other people. Like sometimes you're teaching them that like, oh, well, your actions don't affect anyone else in this house. And that's not true.
No.
If a dirty room is pulling your energy as a mother, and then it also changes their energy when they walk into that room, and the space that is the energy that's created in there changes that kid's energy, and they come out, all of those things are interconnected and play together. And so I'm kind of the person, I'm a questioner. I don't really like to have people tell me what to do. I have to know why. So if my kid was asking this, I would literally go through and have a conversation like, why do you think it's important to have a clean room? And have them like come up with these answers and kind of help guide them, but really have them list reasons why it's important and why is it a value in our home, and why is it that it's good to incorporate these habits now, and have a conversation. And it's not about resisting them, but teaching them.
Yeah,
And
I love that. I mean, and that's one of the things that I've said to my daughter. I said, as your parent, it's my job to guide you. What you do with that guidance when you're an adult is clearly up to you. But I need to know I'm at least teaching you standards, because again, how would we know what light was if we didn't know what dark was? Like, we have to understand that this is dirty, this is clean, what feels better. And I love what you said. There's an element to cleansiness, right? It brings that peace into your home. It brings organization. Your mind's clear. You can think, you can find things. If they're not all piled in there. But I just think it's important because like one of the things that I've noticed with your family is that you guys communicate a lot. There's a lot of talking. Everyone knows what everyone's doing. It's not like, oh, it's none of your business. It's there's just harmony. It's like pure harmony in your home. And I'm sure, because I've asked you, I'm like, is there anything that you don't do right, Jacinda? Like your family just, and you're like, oh yeah, there's plenty. But there's a sense of harmony. And I think it comes back to the culture that you have created from the moment you had, your first child, is like, how do we want to raise our children? How do we want to keep this culture in our home? So it's devotional, it's quality time, it's love, it's communication, it's sharing in the work that needs to be done, elevating each other by doing their own share.
Yes. I also feel like, I do have to say that one thing, Sedona is very much a black and white kind of person. And there are times where, each kid I might treat a little differently, or how I discipline them a little differently. And she's just like, well, that's not fair. I had to do this, and everything. And I'm like, hey, actually equality is not fairness. Like you each have different, like you do different things during the day and have different responsibilities. And I know the whole thing, right? I know the whole thing that's going on. I also know what your love languages are. I also know what, if you're like moving toward person, or moving away from person. So a punishment to you is not the same kind of punishment to someone else. You know what I mean?
Right.
Where Sedona moves away from like, ooh, I don't want to have that happen to me. So that's really what motivates her. And yet my son Xander is a moving toward person. So a punishment and reward system is going to be different for them. It's not going to be the same kind of thing. And I think being able to teach your kids and recognize that, fairness does not mean that everything's equal. Like it doesn't mean it's about each person's individual issues and needs and how to get the outcome you need to get to. It was kind of cute. I don't remember the circumstances, but I was Xander, my 15-year-old, who's 15 now. I think he's 14 at the time, but he was having a really hard time, and he's kind of like my sweetest kid. He is so sweet, but he was really having a hard time, and he doesn't usually show any attitude, but he was just showing a little attitude. And Sedona was trying to logically talk him through it and trying to get him in a better place and everything. And I kind of tapped her on the shoulder. I'm like, watch this. and I went to Xander. I'm like, Xander, do you need a hug? And he's like, yeah. And I just gave him a hug, and you could hear, like, it was almost like we almost started trying not to laugh, because you could hear me like, like you could see him just letting it all go. And then you could almost hear the like, go, 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 go. Like his love language is like filling right up. And then he just like tapping it back. Okay, I'm good, Mom. And he just like went along, and he was just so happy. And she was just like, oh my gosh. And I'm like, well, Xander's love language is physical touch. his love tank was low. You just needed to fill it back up. And I think that's really important as a parent.
Yes.
Is like, I do feel it's so important to hold to standards, but at the same time, it's more outcome driven than standard driven, if that makes sense. So sometimes it's really about identifying like what is causing this kid to act out. It's not about, oh, you did this, now it's this. You know what I mean? It's, wow, I wonder what's going on for him right now. What is his love tank empty? Like, is his love tank, like, do I need to fill his love tank? Or, Tony Robbins, as you know, like, he has some of these big three. It's one of the best things I ever learned from Tony, was that the big three lies that we tend to tell ourselves. And that is that we're not enough, that we're not worthy, and we're not lovable. And so many times you can see the effects of those lies coming out.
Yeah.
And so you can kind of look at that. Like my 9-year-old was having a hard time with her homework, and I was trying to help her, but she was lashing out at me every time I was trying to help her. And until I realized she doesn't feel like she's enough. And every time I'm trying to help her, it just shows that she's like, I'm not smart. I'm not enough. Right. And so it was a reaction to her feeling that way. And so it wasn't so much about me trying to help her, but her just feeling like she didn't have the answers. And so attacking the actual cause is way more effective than trying to treat the symptoms that's coming out. And so those symptoms are so key in trying to recognize what's really going on underneath for them.
It's interesting that you bring up a great point. Because I've been coaching kids for a long, long time. And one of the things that I see, I tell parents all the time, I'm like, your kids need to know that they're enough to you. Well, my kids do know. Well, they need to know you're proud of them, because if my mom's proud of me, that means that I'm enough to her. Like, that's what kids feel. It's an innate thing. Like, they want to make sure they're not disappointing their parents. Most of the time kids don't want to get a good grade because it feels great. They want a good grade to show their parents, like, I got a good grade. Like, look, because it makes you proud as the parent. And the minute that they don't bring a good grade, you're like, oh, now all of a sudden they're like, oh, I disappointed. That means I'm not good enough. And that's where these kids start to learn these lies and tell themselves that. And so I know that, I have 2 older boys. One's turning 30 tomorrow, and then I have another 25-year-old. And the way I raised them was definitely different from the way I raised the 12-year-old twins. Number one, I was a single mom then. Now I'm not. But mostly because I saw that some of the things that I did contributed to I'm not enough. Like, when they brought home a grade, I would be like, see? Like, you could do better than that. Come on. You're smarter. In my mind, I'm saying, I agree, you're smarter. You can do good. In their mind, it was like, see, I'm still not good enough for her. I'm still not good enough. Like, that's the message that they got from that. So now my son just told me, I think it was yesterday, he's like, Mom, I got a 75 on my unit test. And I'm like, and he's all excited about it. I'm like, that's so great. How do you feel about it? He's like, I feel great about it. I'm like, you feel great about this scene? He's like, I do. We celebrated it. We just did, because he was excited about it. Yeah. And I said, does it feel as good as your A? He's like, well, no. He's like, but it feels better than an F. And I said, it does. So it's what's great is that I have learned that I don't want my kids to have these lies, that they're not worthy and they're not good enough. So if I could do something as a parent to celebrate what they want to celebrate too, to show them that they're worthy of that, they're enough, they got that. I think it's important, to continue that. And it is. And I'm glad that you recognize that too. Like, when you see that, and then the love tank, I think that's so important.
Yeah. I think, one thing that I've actually really appreciated is when you see your kids struggling, it is so important for you as a parent to take that opportunity to kind of help them diagnose what's going on.
Yeah.
So when you do it often enough, now actually what happens to all the time to me now is, like, my kid will come up and I'm like, Mom, can I get a hug? I'm like, sure. You know what I mean? Like, they start to recognize when their love tank's full, like empty, and they ask for what they need. My son Xander actually is the one that taught me this, because he just innately, even when he was like 4 or 5, Every time his love tank was low, he'd come up and be like, Mom, so don't you just love my eyes? And I'm like, I do love your eyes. They're so cute, Sandra. They're so blue. You get to see he just and don't you just love it when I smile? And I'm like, I do love it when you smile. Like, you know what I mean? And he would just literally just keep asking for all the things he wanted to hear. I would tell him, and then he'd be like, thanks, Mom, and just walk away. So like, if he ever saw that, and I'm like, you know what? That is some of the best ways that I can help my kids recognize when their love tanks are low and allow themselves to recognize how they can feel it themselves. Like, ask for what they need and not feel like it just has to be expected that you're going to know. You know what I mean?
Right.
But all of a sudden, I just know that your love tank's not low. So if you're seeing them react and you're seeing them act out, it's such a great opportunity to kind of say and kind of teach them, like, okay, what's going on? So there's two things you look for. Which of the 3 lies are they believing? You know, am I not enough? Am I not lovable? Or am I not worthy? And or what is your love tank low? Is there something in your love tank that's low? Do we need to feel that, right? Because they're not just acting out for no reason. Like they're feeling like they need attention, or they're feeling one of those things. It's either one or the other. Either it's the away from, right? The feeling like you're not enough, or you need the going to, where you feel like your love tank needs to be filled up.
Nice.
And you can do that one skill, just that one thing as a parent. That would change everything in your relationship with your kids, and also allowing to teach them how to healthily deal with their emotions and how to healthily deal with how to overcome and recognize when those lies are being told in your head and you're believing it, and your self-talk is a big deal.
So Donna, I'm curious, do you recognize, like, do you know what your love language is?
Yeah, my love languages are quality time and words of affirmation. And I was just reflecting as my mom was talking about that. I was reflecting back, like, just all the times that, like, I start acting out, or like I start getting mad at my mom, or like when I start acting out, I don't, my mom knows this, but I don't tend to like it when my mom's like, what's wrong? Like, tell me what's wrong. Because as soon as she says that, I almost like close down. I'm like, nothing's wrong. Like, just, I'm fine. Just like, leave me alone. Just like, and so I really appreciate, like, just thinking back on it. She always like takes me out and spends some quality time with me. Like, she'll take me out. We went and bought swimsuits one time, or we went and got ice cream, and she'll just like spend time with you. She'll talk with me, and she gets me to a place where like I can feel her love for me. And it makes me feel like, okay, I actually do want to talk about this. I am really struggling with this and this and this right now, Mom. Like, and so it's just, she's really good at like making us feel like we're loved and feel like, you know, like you don't have to open up, but like I'm here when you're ready.
Nice. Nice. So if you don't like what's wrong, I notice this. And for all our listeners out there, hear it. Here's a kid telling you they don't like hearing that. What else could a parent say? What else, like, say parents aren't recognizing the love tank's low, but they see something's different. They see something's off. What would you want to hear instead? Like, what would you know, what are something that a parent, like a kid, might want to hear instead of what's wrong?
I don't know. I feel like that might be different for a lot of different people.
For you, like, so say your mom, you know, she sees that you're down, something happened, and you don't want her to say what's wrong. And she doesn't have the time really to say, hey, let's, go for a drive, but she wants to make sure you're feeling seen and heard in that moment. What's something that your mom can say?
I feel like something that would really like work with me is just her telling me like, hey, I love you. If you need anything, I'm here. Or like,
okay,
if you want to talk about anything, I'm here as well. Like, just again, like showing that
She's available,
and that she's available when I'm ready.
So I think one of the reasons why that would trigger Sedona is when I'd be like, hey, what's wrong? Then now she feels like, okay, now my behaviors made it so it's obvious that something's going on, and that's just proof that I'm not enough, right? That I'm not being enough. I'm not showing up great. And so then you have this resistance that you push back and be like, no, I'm fine. Everything's fine. Like, you don't have to worry about me, right? Like, I'm enough. Like, you can just don't have to. So it's a little bit like, she's right. Every kid's a little different. Again, that's why you have to just know the love languages, recognize when there's things going on. It's like, what belief is going on underneath this that's causing her to feel this way? Right. And then inviting. So like, you just have to know your kid. Is it better to invite them to chat with you? Like, hey, I love you. I'm here for you. And when you're ready to talk, I'm here for you. And I did create a space in my bedroom that has got this couch. It has got like my kids, pictures of my kids on the wall, and it says, I choose you. And that is my kid's very favorite space. I'm on the couch with my kids, one of my kids, at least once or 5 times a week. They'll come and say, Mom, can I have a private talk? So they love, and it may be big things, maybe small things, but I will stop what I'm doing, if at all possible. I will stop what I'm doing. We'll go into my room. We shut the door. It's just the two of us. And we sit on our couch and we create that environment. Space. Again, it's that family culture, right? That environment that they know that they can have my attention whenever they need it. And my kids ask for it all the time. Like, Mom, can we have a private talk? And they want to be in that room. They want to be in that space, and they want it just to be us. So
I love that so much. And I'm reflecting now, like with my one son, he doesn't like when I'm like, what's wrong? Nothing's wrong. And it's almost, I think what you're saying is that like, I'm okay. I need to be enough to deal with this. So what I do, tell him the same thing. And I'm like, well, I noticed that something's off. So when you're ready, it's giving him back control. Like, when you're ready, I want you to know I'm here. And I am the one that he'll come to, like, and he can vent what he needs to say, and he feels safe to say, well, I'm upset because of this, or Dad did this, or, when you said this, that hurt me. And I think that that's the most important thing we can do for our kids, is to create that open, safe, and trusting space where they can come to us and say, hey, can I have that private chat with you? I love that you have the couch and it's, I choose you, like, what a beautiful environment that you've created, in your home for them. And that is beautiful to recognize. But I think that, just recognizing, I think kids, just like all of us, they just want to be seen and heard. Like, the fact that we can notice that you're off makes them feel seen. Mm-hmm. Versus like not even noticing something was off with them today.
Well, one thing I just thought of this as we're sitting here, but one of the things we've done, and then it's definitely time to do it again, but even taking these times, we call it, in my business, we started doing these quarterly business reviews with some of our partners, right? And it's about this relationship building. And I'm like, if I'm doing this in my business, why wouldn't I be doing this with my most important relationships? And I had come up with a set of questions, and I sat down, like my husband and I sat down with each of our kids, and we just asked them, like, okay, how's this going on there? And went through all these different questions, and I wrote them all down so we can kind of see. And then my last question was like, what can I do better to support you as a parent? Like, what is it that I can do in any capacity that will help support you better as his parent? But oftentimes, like, taking time to just even discuss the relationship itself is so important, to treat our family relationships as sacred as they are. Like, sometimes we just get, I don't have time for this right now. I don't have time for this right now. And you focus on these other relationships that are not lasting. And yet these most important relationships are suffering because you're not putting the same intention and focus on doing that. Did you want to talk about the, I just blanked out the time. Never mind. I just blanked out. You'd mentioned it before. Now I'm just trying to remember. Like how about just family relationships and developing a relationship.
Yeah, just like a quick thought I had when my mom was discussing it with me was like, the family relationships are like any relationship. And it requires time, and it requires like communication, and it requires thought and intent behind it. Like, it's a very active thing. It's not very passive. Mm-hmm. And I feel like a lot of times it can become passive and just like, and so you have to just make sure you're putting that intent back into the relationship.
That's
Yeah.
beautiful. Beautiful. So what else do you feel, Sedona, growing up in this culture of love and God and closeness and quality time and sharing responsibilities, how do you feel like this has really shaped you, growing up now, getting ready to go into the world?
With the responsibilities thing, I feel like I'm a very responsible person, and I definitely am very independent, and I take charge, and I really appreciate my mom giving me those values. Because sometimes I see other people, and I just am amazed, I can't comprehend how they can't do some of the things that I've been doing since I was 8, because my mom's made me start doing the laundry and make me start making myself breakfast or getting myself up in the morning. Or it's definitely I feel put me a little bit ahead, and prepared me for when I'm going to be living on my own. And then
I was just gonna say, just for some examples, Sedona, because of the skills she's learned growing up, then when I was able to actually hire her to be our nanny, to go through and okay, I've taught her how to do menus and everything. So she'll make the menus for the week. She cooks during the weekdays. I cook on the weekends, and I just pay her to do that portion. So this isn't family chores. This is doing my stuff for me. But she'll make the menus, do the shopping, cook all the meals during the week, and they're excellent meals. I mean, we're not talking we're talking about some pretty good advanced stuff. But she also, she's graduating as a senior in high school, but she's also graduating with her 2-year degree with college. And she figured all that out on her own. She went to the counselors. She signed everything up. We didn't push her to do any of that to her. She just is self-motivated to do it all herself, because she kind of has a life plan, and she's kind of thinking about, the bigger picture, not just getting past high school. So I've been super proud of her for that.
I think that's amazing. And I think that the distinction is different. It's, you could have hired someone outside the house to do your menus and cook dinner and do the shopping, but this is her job. And you, it's a distinction of you're not just helping out with the regular stuff. This is above and beyond. This is my chores as your mom. And I need some help. So I'm going to pay for that help. So I think that's beautiful. And, I'm curious, Sedona, because when I was growing up, I was doing laundry at 6 years old. My friends definitely weren't. I thought my friends were so lucky because their parents did their laundry. And here I'm doing my laundry, and I'm doing my mom's laundry because she was a single mom. Did you ever feel that way? Did you ever feel oh, my friends are so lucky, they don't have to do what I have to do?
Yes. I remember so many times. It was mostly when I was a child, when I would be this isn't fair. How come I have to do this? Or I would see some of my friends getting allowances, hey, I'm doing that. How come they're getting paid to do this? And my mom's answer was always the same, hey, we're paying for this roof that's over your head. You have food on the table. She just brought it back to what I was doing it for. And she talked me down, this is the importance of you doing your own chores. She was talking about earlier, she had a discussion, she doesn't discourage us from having questions like that. She doesn't get mad and just says, because I said so.
Yeah.
It's she really does want us to be curious and have questions, and to understand why she's doing it the way that she does it.
I do remember her coming home from first grade, and she was telling me, Mom, I just want you to know that I'm the only kid in my entire class that packs their own lunch. And I'm like, well, you're welcome.
I love it. I love it. But look at what it's prepared you for now, right? Because your mom had the courage to, if you would, go against the norm, Jacinda, because most people are not giving their kids these chores. Here's what I tell parents. Let your kids know that they're worth being a part of your family, that they're worth being a part of the work as well. I believe that giving our kids chores to do starts embedding their worth. You're part of this family. You're worth it. Mm-hmm. And sharing in it. And I love what you were saying, when your kids were 2, you're like, they can carry a cup. I give them a cup. They can put it on the counter. Like it's whatever they're able to do at that age.
You unload the dishwasher. Like
Yeah.
at 2 o'clock, at 2, they'll start unloading the dishwasher because they actually love that job. They feel really accomplished, even
because they feel they're a part of it. Like
Mhm.
they feel like they're big enough to be a part of it, that they're finally growing up. It's, and I do get that kids' life with their friends, their social life becomes important. But here's what I've learned being in your home and just hearing the conversation today is that in the culture of your family, you have really made family important.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And one thing I just want to mention before we end is that as an owner of a company, you feel this huge pressure to make sure you're leading by example, right? And when I was asking Sedona, because her friends kind of like, she's got great friends. I'm telling you, she has such great girls. Well, I don't know. Can you tell me what you say about your siblings, the siblings and their siblings? So sometimes, like when you babysat for.
Yeah. So it was very different because like my mom, she definitely made us more mature. And so I was babysitting some of my friends' siblings, and they are not as mature as I was or as my siblings were at that age. Like I remember I had my little sister was younger than the people I was babysitting, and she was more mature and more able to like help me than they were. And so it was a complete like shock to me. I like never even fully comprehended how much responsibilities my mom gave us until I went, and they it was just different.
Well, and it helped too because Sedona, because she's also responsible and it's that example. And so she was mentioning the other night, she's like, I noticed that because I did this, this, and this, all the kids feel like they should be doing this. And they would do it at younger ages because I was already doing it. And they thought that they should be doing it even at these younger ages than I had her do it at. And I think we underplay or underestimate the impact of example.
Yeah.
And, she kind of mentioned like, I'm not a super big fan of electronics. I'm not really on social media either because I do feel like there's anyway, we won't go there, but I don't want my kids on social media. I'm not on social media. I don't really like my kids working on electronics. I mean, I'm on electronics for my job, obviously for the computer, but when I'm done for the day, I don't watch TV. Mm-hmm. I'm doing the things that I find important. I'm studying my scriptures. We're serving other people. Gratitude is one of my biggest values in my house. And we're always looking for ways to express gratitude to each other. And on my big wall, I think you noticed that, Vinu. I love to cook. I love to cook for other people. I love the feeling and just the whole community of cooking.
And it's so good.
Thanks. But I have on my wall in my kitchen this huge thing that I made that just said bellies full of gratitude. And the image I wanted was that when we come here, we're filling up on gratitude. Yes. That's what we're feeding on. That's what our bellies are full of, is gratitude for each other and for the people that are coming to our home and the blessings that we have.
This has been so amazing and so and they're easy steps. And that's what I love for our listeners all over the world that's listening to us tonight and that will listen to this, is that how easy these steps are. When you know your kids' love language, you can identify when their love tanks are low and fill their love tanks up, how much that can shift the whole dynamic, the whole relationship. And the other thing is you put a lot of quality time into your family.
Well, my first job, like I own a company. I also have my own book of business. I literally have like 2 companies that I do. But if you ask me, my first job is being a mom. And that is my most important job. That's the job I can't screw up. I only get one shot at this. And I've got to put all myself into this. Like I'm already losing 1 kid in May. And it goes so fast. And you just only have this time. And so I'm appreciating all the time that we have. It's going to be a big hole when she leaves, but you're exactly right. Like the quality time, please don't think that you always have tomorrow. Like appreciate what you have today and do the work today that you can with your family. And I say work, but it's like, it is work. It's a relationship, but it's enjoyable work. I truly love being with my family. It's who I want to be with.
Well, I just want to thank both of you. This has been so good. I got so much out of this too for myself. So I love having you on, Jacinda. And Sedona, thank you for being here and just opening up. It's just nice to get, a kid's perspective, if you would, growing up in this and seeing the difference your life has had on you now. And even though there's times that you didn't feel like it was fair, you can be grateful for the fact that your mom did help you, guide you to be the person you are today through this culture that she's created. So thank you guys so much. And Jacinda, I definitely want to have you back.
All right. Love it. Thank you, 𝗬𝘂𝗹𝘁𝗶𝘃.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us on another episode of Redefine Parenting with 𝗬𝘂𝗹𝘁𝗶. Follow her on Instagram at 𝗬𝘂𝗹𝘁𝗶𝘃. To learn more about 𝗬𝘂, as well as download her free ebook now, go to www.𝗬𝘂𝗹𝘁𝗶𝘃.com. This show can also be heard on Spanglish Radio Network. Please check out www.𝗖𝘂𝗹𝘁𝗶𝗃𝗁 for all your news and programming. Spanglish World. Watch it, hear it, read it, download it.